Welcome to Behind the Lash Chair. I'm your host, Alexis Weisenburger, founder and owner of AW Lashes. My goal is to help you as a lash artist grow with tips and tricks on lashing, becoming an entrepreneur, marketing, and so much more. This is an amazing place to find free resources and connect with lash artists all around the world. Let's get started. I am so excited for this week's podcast. We have the queen of, I would say, lash photos. I feel like she's made the best lash photography in lash history. Not to talk you up, Shilo, but it is true. Whenever I'm online, I know which photos you've edited and you've created because you're so amazing at photography and capturing lash sets. So welcome, Shilo. I can't wait to share your knowledge today.
Thank you. That was quite the intro.
It's true.
Well, thank you.
Still to this day, I know which photos are Shilo's photos.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel very good about my work.
Well, I mean, nobody knows this story because it just happened, but we're going to Vegas, IBS, and we have an awesome photographer, but he's still learning and with his edits and stuff. And so we had to reach out to you, and then you send it back and it was just like flawless. And we're like, there she does it again. Shilo in the house.
Yeah, I was like, this picture needs more than just skin smoothing. So I went and did a couple more things to make it that much better.
Oh, it was. I mean, we all looked at it and we're like, that's perfect. She couldn't have done it any better.
Oh, that's good. That was my goal. So I'm glad that I accomplished that for you.
Well, Shilo, I guess first things first, because everyone always asks, and we worked together at another lash company, but everyone would always ask you, like, how do you get the perfect lash picture?
Oh man,
there's so many things. I guess we can just kind of dissect it, but
yeah, there are.
What's the first thing you would do because you used to do this for me, I'd finish a lash set, like what would you kind of do to help me capture these beautiful images?
I mean, definitely, lighting is going to be your most important, right? As I feel like most people know that lighting is huge. And so getting your lighting right is really going to make or break your photo. And for me, I like a pretty like bright lit, not super shadowy lighting scenario. And we had studio lights that we would use, but we would also use a lot of the time just the glam core lights, and we would just set those around the lashes and just make sure that it was like good even lighting around all the lashes, and then start shooting. And so you don't have to have like crazy expensive photography equipment to get good lash photos by any means. You just need a good lighting setup.
I remember once you made us go by a window and you kind of put the glam core light with the window lighting and kind of try to capture it that way too.
Yeah, that way you have that nice lighting coming in from the side window, and then I guess that the window lighting would probably be more of your fill light, and then the glam core lighting is more of your primary light. But then that way you're just getting like as much light as possible. Yeah. And then of course, like your lash angles when you're taking photos with your camera. We would take like so many different lash angles. And so luckily nowadays it's all digital and you can delete anything that you don't want to use. So like just shoot away and experiment with different angles, go from the bottom, go from the top. Alexis was always very particular and like very perfect with her lashes, and made sure that we would comb through the lashes and get them perfect before even starting to shoot the lashes. And she was constantly fixing them while we were shooting too. To get those like perfect lash photos.
Well, those like they would blink once and they would go to a lower lash will kind of shift and you're like, no, and it's so like subtle, but
just one lash is off.
But you would also like tell me too, you'd be like, is this supposed to be here? And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, yes. If anything looked off to me, I mean, I didn't really know because I'm not a lash artist by any means. But if anything looked off, you can usually tell if something looks off, right? And so I would always
Yeah.
ask Alexis, yeah, is this supposed to be this way? Because I don't think that it is, but if it is, we can leave it. So we were a good tag team with making the perfect lashes. Well, you made the perfect lashes and I photographed the perfect lashes.
Oh, but your editing to this day just is, no one can do it like Shilo can. I am telling you.
It's really not that hard. It's only a couple tools in Photoshop and just I probably just an eye for it too. Like when, because I use the, do you want me to tell what I use?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the skin smoothing software, it's called Portraiture. And so I do that. I usually do that one a couple of times actually for the lash photos, just to make sure that skin is extra smooth. And then for like images for yours, for instance, for the IBS show, I like, you know, even the skin soothing software doesn't smooth out everything. So I use the patch tool and I smooth out any other imperfections like pore size or any scarring that they have. And sometimes even the lighting, like you can get kind of like a hot spot on the face where the brightest point of lighting is. And so I'll use the patch tool to smooth out that lighting so it's not so contrasty on the face. Because your eye will automatically be drawn to the brightest part of the photo. So I want to dumb that down as much as possible. And then a lot of the times this just happens if you're getting the face in the photo and not just focusing on the lashes, a lot of times, no matter how much you smooth the hair out, you'll still get hair on like the sides of the face, or you'll need to clean up like the little hairs around the forehead. And so I use the patch tool and the clone stamp tool to do that. But that you kind of have to have an eye, and sometimes when you use the patch tool, you can see it like literally looks like little patchiness on the skin. And so you just have to go and continually smooth all that out until it looks like perfect skin.
So you have Photoshop. Do those additional apps cost you much, or how much would they be looking at?
Portraiture does. That's the only thing that you'd have to spend extra on. And shoot, I bought that program so many years ago. I think it was like $100 when I bought it, but I think it's
a one-time purchase though. I feel like that's worth it.
Oh, it totally is worth it to get like that perfect flawless skin. It's totally worth it. It's a one-time purchase. I want to say it's like $200 now, and it's totally worth it, especially if you use it on every single photo. You're going to get your money's worth in like the first day. So
yeah, like, I would definitely say, was it easy for you to learn how to use that, or did it take you some time?
Portraiture is super, super easy because you literally just click on the skin and it highlights the whole skin for you. And then you can see exactly where it's going to smooth, and then you hit okay, and then it automatically does it. And so I usually go through like the darkest point on the face, the middle point on the face, and then the lightest point on the face. Those are the three things that I click on the skin when I'm in that program. That way all the skin gets smooth. But the patch tool and the clone stamp tool, those come with Photoshop, and those definitely take some getting used to, especially the clone stamp tool. That one does take some practice.
Yeah. So say a lash artist didn't want, or I guess I remember I invested into a very nice camera. Do you feel like that's necessary nowadays? I mean, because that was like what, Shilo, like 5 years ago when I was talking to you about buying a camera and everything. Do you feel like to this day that's worth it, or do you feel like a phone is good enough?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I feel like a phone is great. If you're getting, I guess I would say if you're getting the close up lash photos where it's like you're focusing just on the lashes, a phone can do the job. If you're wanting to get more like show the face with the lashes and you're wanting like really good, pretty lighting, I would consider investing into a camera. And it doesn't have to be a crazy expensive camera. It doesn't have to be a professional grade. You can definitely get away with like middle of the line camera. But those just, I feel like probably because I'm a photographer that it would be worth investing in that if you're going to get farther away shots. But I mean, your iPhone would probably work fine. I never really shot with my iPhone on the farther away shots. And the iPhones are so good nowadays, because back then, what I had, like, who even knows, an iPhone 6 probably.
Yeah, right. Like, what did we even have?
Yeah, not good phones compared to what we have now. So really, with the iPhone 13, right? It's iPhone 13.
Yeah.
You could probably get away with good photos that are farther away that show the face and the lashes. And then just upload your pictures into Photoshop and edit from there. Because I mean, in Photoshop, you can bump up the contrast if you want to, you can adjust the lighting if you want to, right? And I would definitely recommend doing those adjustments in Photoshop, more so than on your phone. Because sometimes the phone, I feel like the phone does a good job, but I feel like Photoshop just does better.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. But I guess there's some people out there that struggle with Photoshop and a few things like that. Is there any apps on your phone that you would say I not as good, but like are good enough for what they're looking for or anything like that?
Yeah, well, Photoshop has an app, so you
There
could
you go.
yeah, so you could just download the Photoshop app on your phone. What are some other ones that I have used? I mean,
I've
I
used
just,
Facetune. I don't know if that one's
yeah,
still the thing.
I think that I feel like Facetune is. I've never really played with a lot of apps because I work in Photoshop so much. Um, I mean, Facetune, I feel like you just have to be careful not to distort the photo too much, you know.
Yeah,
But I
because
feel
there's
like
too much editing.
yes, oh yeah, because you can definitely go too far where it's like, whoa, that instead of like, whoa, that person has flawless skin, it's whoa, that photo is definitely photoshopped, you know. So there's definitely
Yeah.
a happy balance between the two. So Facetune or the Photoshop app, I honestly really haven't used a lot of apps for editing pictures, so I don't really have a ton of advice as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, those
But
are two that I hear the most good things
yeah.
about.
But if you can just get Photoshop on your phone and, add that software to it, I mean, you're pretty much set as like a photographer would have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you need like huge files, right? Like most of the lash artists, I'm assuming, are using these for their Instagram account and maybe for their website. And so these images aren't huge. So you don't really have to worry about the quality too much. Like a phone quality photo is going to be just fine for Instagram and even your website.
Yeah. Well, so I guess though, if they were going to start maybe getting into photography, as far as like maybe taking a little bit further away shots, is there a specific brand that you like for camera or anything like that?
I mean, I'm a Canon girl. I've always been a Canon girl, but you really can't go like wrong with Canon, Nikon, Fuji, Sony, like really any of those cameras those are all very good brands. And you can start with like the middle line. I think the Canon has a D line, and I think that that's their middle grade line, or even some of the Rebels.
Okay.
They have mirrorless cameras nowadays. Those are, you will invest more money into the mirrorless cameras.
Mhm.
But the mirrorless cameras are awesome because they're just like so crisp and clear, and you can see exactly where you're zooming in on or where you're focusing on.
Yeah.
And you can also get used cameras. So that's something like you don't have to go invest all this money in new expensive equipment. Like there's this website that I use a lot for used equipment called KEH, and you can buy really nice camera gear for a fraction of the price because it's used. So really you can't go wrong with any camera. It just depends on its user preference, really. And then as far as your lens goes, I would say either a 50 millimeter lens or a 35 milliliter lens to get those like really close up, beautiful lash shots.
Yeah. I remember that website, and I think I only spent like, is it safe to say like $500? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure now it's, maybe 750 or 1,000, but I think back then on that, I think it was 500. I mean, obviously everything's going up in price, but I think that's what I did spend.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like you can get a decent camera for like, as far as the body of the camera for $500. And then, I mean, those lenses, like the 35 millimeter lens, you'll spend a little bit more than the 50. But you can get a used 50 lens probably for, well, it depends on which one you get, because there's a few different kinds, but they have a cheap 50 milliliter lens for like a couple $100, or you can invest in the nicer one, probably for like $400 or $500.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have the 30, but what would you tell someone when they ask, like, well, what's the difference? Like, I know it will probably have it on the description, but just in case they just go on, they're like, okay, I'm going to get a Canon. I'm going to this website and I'm going to get, the 30, or what's the main difference between the two when they're going to pick?
So the 35 milliliter, you will be able to get closer to your subject than you can with the 50. So when you're wanting to get the closer detailed shots, you'll be able to stay in focus closer with the 35 than the 50.
Yeah. I think that's why I did it, is because I knew I just wanted up close, like the most detailed shots ever. But I mean, like you said, with the 50, you can get more, a little bit further and use it for more things.
Yes. But if we're going to pick between one, I would do the 35 for lashes.
Yeah. Specifically for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that would be cool too, if you can like start, I guess if they were going to take it serious, they could buy the other lens later, but I have those two things and that's all I've ever needed for lash photos. But once again, I still use my phone nowadays, probably more just because I have to go in the back. I have to get the tripod.
Yeah.
I have to put it on there and, get it all set up. But when it comes down to like a photo shoot, I do see the difference.
Yes. Yeah. And that's probably for a lash artist, really, that like exactly what you're doing. You are going to use your phone for the everyday, especially for your lash clients, right? Because it's quick, it's easy, you get the shot and you're done. But if you're doing more of a branding shoot for your website and Instagram, then definitely you're going to want a camera. Or you just hire a photographer and have the photographer bring all their equipment and do everything for you.
Right. I mean, I guess you have to get to that point. I say I kind of went through all three, like where I started with my phone and, back then we were talking about the 6 and stuff. And then, I networked with people like you and then, kind of got into that, but that took time. And then I also started, I'll just do it myself. And so I guess it's nice to dabble. And nowadays I just use professionals because at the same time, like, I think it's worth the money, but it's also costs money,
Yes, it's an investment. So you want to make sure that you're at the point in your business where you can invest in something like that. Yeah.
So maybe it's up to them where they could spend, anywhere from 500 to 1,000 on a photo shoot, or, 1,000 on a camera, and then just kind of make sure that they're doing their own photo shoots and not just buy it and put it in a drawer.
Yeah. You definitely want to, if you're going to invest, you definitely want to make sure that you are using your equipment.
Yes, because I've done that. I mean, there's been some times where it just stays there. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard to find the motivation and the time. I think that's where it comes down to. Is like, okay, I really want to, sit here and do this.
Yes, I feel like that's what being in the social media industry, that is the thing that I hear the most from a lot of business owners, is like they spend so much time on their business and the last thing that they want to do is working more with Instagram because it's just so time consuming. But it's also so important because that's the only way that you really are going to grow your business, especially with lashes, right? I feel like Instagram is so vital if you're wanting to build your brand.
Yeah.
That you just have to put in the time and the work to take the extra few minutes to get those shots and then the extra few minutes to post.
Yeah. And I'd say for when we were doing it, I mean, the best, most liked photos were just like us taking some pretty cool angles of lash shots.
Oh, yeah. Those posts are for sure the ones that got the most interaction out of all of our posts. Like we would do tips and tricks and it would get interaction, but man, when we would post like a beautiful lash photo, that post would
Yes.
just blow up.
Yeah, that was fun. And I remember just for that one shot, it probably took us about 30 minutes, doing all these angles. I mean, you would sit there and go through all of them and be like, okay, that's the photo.
Yeah.
But then you can use the other ones, but there was always just one that stood out.
Yeah. Yes. It was like, that is the photo. We spent all this time for this one photo, and this one is it.
It sounds crazy, but yes, it did take that much time for that one photo.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, that was literally our job, was to create beautiful lash photos.
Yeah.
But it's worth it, right? I mean, the interaction that we got from that post was 100% worth it.
Oh, totally. I agree, and that's what I'm saying, to this day, if I was scrolling through Instagram and your work was on there, I could point it out, because I mean, we took hours and hours for taking the photos and picking the right photos, and then you editing the photo. Like, it just took time. And I feel like people think it's just an easy thing. Like, oh, I'm just going to use my phone and take a quick picture. And it's, why isn't mine as perfect as that one?
Yeah. Yeah. And because they don't realize the difference of equipment used, time used, everything.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I guess with that, like, what else advice would you give to someone on Instagram when it comes to lash photos? Like, I mean, you did so much for social media. I mean, you have so many tips.
I would say posting a variety of content, right? So, well, nowadays, so okay, there's like so much to this that I could go into, but you definitely
Do
want to
it.
be posting consistently. Okay. Here's what you want to do on Instagram. So posting consistently, for sure. If you could get at least a post up a day, that's better than a post, like only a couple posts a week, right? So post every day if you can. You want to do a variety of content. So not just photos, videos. I mean, like, like the videos where you're just brushing through the lashes.
Yeah.
They're just somewhat relaxing. Like, I feel like you could watch those videos all day because it is just soothing for some reason.
Oh, totally.
And so, but a variety of videos. So like brushing through the lashes, showing your work. Like you're a great example of this, showing like the mapping of the lashes, the lash set that you're doing, a time lapse of a lash set, like cleaning the lashes, building a lash fan, placing the extension on the lash. Like there's so much content that you can post. So just doing a variety of posts, from photos to videos to reels. Reels is huge, because that's a newer feature on Instagram. Instagram rewards you when you post reels. So Instagram will automatically make sure that your reels are seen more than any of your other posts when you use them. And so posting a reel, I would say probably a couple times a week, is going to be really important to getting seen and to getting your business seen more on Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, reels are definitely going to be more time consuming, but in the end, they're totally worth it.
I mean, I remember, and maybe they could try this, like just finding a buddy and doing it, because I had so much fun recording them with you. Like, I remember we were just laughing about half the stuff. I mean, we would get in trouble, but we were having a great time and coming up with this content. So if they can make it fun.
Let's say you were coming up with the content, I was just recording it, because Alexis was like the genius of all the goofy things that we would do.
No, it was so much fun. I just remember, like, we had like a lash survival thing, and we went and got some camo, and like, like
probably one of my favorites.
But like the fun we would have, because I think you'd make me feel more relaxed behind the camera, and people have that issue, probably with making those videos.
Yes, that is very good advice, because I do agree that, like, especially when you're starting out doing it by yourself, you do feel really awkward and really silly. But if you have a partner to feel silly with, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is normal, and like we're just having a good time. So I think that's great advice. Get another lash buddy, and then you guys can use the same content, right? Or
Yeah.
Support each other. That's a great.
Different outfits.
Yeah.
I mean, you would just like throw like you would make it even worse. Like I'd be like, "Oh, we should do this messy thing." And you're like, "Oh, no, we should do this messy thing." And I'm like, "Okay.
Yeah,
Sure."
take your idea and make it that much worse, that much
Right?
funner.
Yeah. So, I totally think that would be I mean, it's but once again, like I mean, they're going to have to take like a day off or
Yeah.
a few hours in the morning with each other because it does take time. Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
just one video sometimes would take us almost a whole day.
Yeah, which is so crazy. Granted, we were using like the professional camera, where
Yeah.
nowadays on your phone, like doing TikToks or reels on your phone, it's not going to be quite as time consuming, but it still takes time. Like it definitely still takes time. And some are quicker than others. Some reels you can do in like 30 minutes, and others it's going to take you a couple hours. So I think that's great advice too, is just either just stick with one day, and then that way you know that you have that day to create content, or like a Tuesday morning, but just be consistent with it because consistency is key.
Yeah. And I mean, I totally think just like a buddy, because like I've used my husband before and he's fine, but he's not, I mean, sorry, Ty, but like he's not like my Lash, like he doesn't understand like why this is so funny. Like he's like,
Yeah, it's
okay.
true. Like your friends are probably going to make you laugh a little bit more anyways. And then
Yeah.
someone also in the industry who gets all these cliche things that you're talking about, it's going to be funnier. And then there's going to be more authenticity coming out in your videos.
Yeah.
So yes,
Would
grab a Lash buddy.
Yeah. Would you say that video content, because of TikTok and Reels, is kind of where the industry of everything is kind of going versus, I mean, like obviously having an amazing lash photo, like we said, is just the OG for all lash artists. But like videos are now becoming more relevant, or how would
Yeah.
you balance that?
Yeah, I would definitely say videos are more relevant than photos and still photos. Like you said, of course, you want to post both, but videos, like you're going to want to be posting, I would say, more videos than photos on Instagram nowadays.
Mm. And what about stories?
Oh, stories are huge. So I would say that most people look at stories more than they do the feed. Like I feel like people, when they look at the feed, they stop scrolling pretty easily, pretty soon. But stories is
Mhm.
where people get addicted. So stories are extremely important to be utilizing in with your Instagram and TikTok. I would say definitely get a TikTok account, right? And you can
Yeah.
multi-purpose those, like whatever you post on TikTok, you can post on Instagram. And this might be, people might say that this is wrong, but whatever you post, if you're posting a reel in your feed, like just post that in your stories. It's okay
Yeah.
if you utilize the same content. So some people will tell you you should never post the same content, like don't post on your stories and post on your feed the same thing. But I think that's wrong because not
Yeah.
everyone's going to see your feed, where they'll
Sure.
probably see your stories, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, stories are so, I mean, you can get personal on there and just all the
Oh,
things
yeah.
that kind of show your face. There's so much you can do with those
Yeah.
stories.
So much. I mean, don't go overboard. In my personal opinion, you shouldn't overpost. Some people post way too much on stories, and that's definitely where you're going to start to lose engagement.
Yeah.
So
After so many clicks, you usually
yeah,
swipe.
yeah, you're like, okay, and on to the next. So don't bombard people with stories, but you definitely still want to be posting, I would say, at least like 5 to 6 stories a day.
Yeah. And I guess like the last thing I just felt like you were just, I mean, there's so many, but was with like the feed of making it look really pretty and blended. Like any advice for someone like trying to, post on their Instagram, like lash photos, personal photos, videos, like how to get it all like so beautiful and eye catching when they do stumble upon your Instagram page.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, so you don't want to do like lash photo, lash photo, lash photo, right?
Yeah.
You want to have a variety of photos, like a close-up lash photo, another photo that shows more space, um, whatever that is, like a lash graphic, right? Like you want to use a variety of content, but you want it to be cohesive. So um, I would say like you want to kind of stay within the same color tone. So a lot of people, like your style is a little bit more on like the high contrasty side, right? Like a
Yeah.
lot, it's like more moody.
Yeah.
So, and some people like it a little more like bright and airy. So I would pick a mood that you want to go with. And then, so start there. And then some photos can either be like more on the warm side or more on the cool side. So also determine what style you like best and stick with that. You don't want to be mixing all of those together because then that's where it doesn't feel cohesive.
Yeah.
And then I would, if you're worried about what it's going to look, download an app. Like Planoly is a great app where, and I want to say if you only have one account, it's free. And you can literally like map out all your posts. And so then you can see exactly what it's going to look like in your feed before you even post it.
Yeah. I love that app and I use it and it's awesome. It's free. With the setting the mood. So say you kind of pick out like, oh, I'm going to go more light and bright on my feed. Do you have like your settings in your, Photoshop or whatever kind of set to that tone so you can upload a picture and kind of get it to match? Or do you kind of know like, oh, like in my settings, I, brighten it 30% and that's going to match to the feed, if that makes sense with my question.
Yeah. It depends on the photo, right? Because
yeah,
some photos might be like really well exposed, some might not be. So I would say that's just more something that you have to train your eye to see like, oh, to get this photo to match this photo, I need to bump it up this much. It's not necessarily a preset setting because even with presets, you have to adjust it. Like I use presets in my work, but I still have to adjust those presets depending on the photo that I'm editing. So you can use a preset, but just know it's not just going to be a one and done type thing. You're probably going to have to do some adjustments to get it right to where you want it to be.
So maybe after you feel like it's edited, put it in Planoly next to that other photo to make sure it kind of has similar lightness or whatever you're going for, contrast.
Yeah. Then it matches all the other photos in your feed.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
A lot of people will like, they'll do like every fifth post is a lash photo, right? So it's like lash photo. And then the next photo is going to be more like far away, like working shot. And then the next photo is going to be like an inspirational quote. And so they just stick with that theme. And so then it makes it easy because, every fifth photo is going to be this, every fourth photo is going to be this. And then that also makes it cohesive too, because you're sticking to a routine, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And then once you kind of get it down, it's like, oh, today's a reel, today's a lash photo. So you can kind of like narrow it down.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can totally see that in like their little grids, like what they're doing. And you're like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. Yep. And that brings a lot of cohesive to your feed as well.
Yeah. I just, Shilo, you're so talented. And now that you're only 4 hours away, like, how do we get you to come and, be a part of everything we're doing? Because I just reminiscing with you today. I miss you so much. If you need a friend, why don't you come out here?
I should, because 4 hours is not that bad. I drive up to Salt Lake all the time. So Denver is just as far.
Right.
So
right.
I just need to come down and we don't even have to do lashes. We could just go have fun. I mean, but lashes is fun. We could come up with some pretty goofy videos again.
Yeah, maybe we should show people behind the scenes of our goofy videos because those were the OGs of like lash industry.
I know. Are the behind the scenes, if people would actually see what it looked like in real life, would be pretty entertaining because
I mean, you were throwing crumbs on me at one point. Like, I think you like grabbed a granola bar and like smushed it everywhere. And I was like, oh, well, that's fine.
Yeah, that worked. Alexis just went along with whatever I wanted to do. She's always a very good sport.
Well, Shilo, it was so amazing having you on. Would love to have you again just because I feel like people need to see how talented you are and you need to share it to the world because the world needs your lash photos and your editing skills.
Well, whenever you need my editing skills, you know where I'm at. So holler at me and I'll fix up a photo for you.
Well, thank you so much. And we will be chatting soon.